the end of our element series for Sun and Moon, and I'm excited but also like kind of sad because I feel like we've come so far. Water, stay hydrated. Cancer? Let's start with Cancer. Cancer is really childlike. They have a very exciting and idealistic way of navigating the world, and they constantly need just to overall feel like anything is possible. I feel like Cancer placements are really dreamy and really just go with the flow, as they are also a cardinal sign. Cancer gets a bad reputation for being like a crybaby or overly emotional, and I feel like this is a little wrong to do to Cancer. I feel a lot of Cancer moon placement people are just very in tune with the emotional needs and feelings of others to a degree that harms them, because they can pick up so easily on like the vibrations that are being put out around them that they can't help but to absorb that. And I also feel like they're really lovable people. They genuinely want the best for everyone. I do feel like at times, if they aren't like developed, they will manipulate the emotions expressed by others in order to get what they want. So you have to be really careful not to fall into that trap. But also, like, Cancer people in general are just very lovable teddy bears, and I think they try to exert more of that hard shell image, that they are harder to get through or break through, but really underneath all that, they are a mushy little piece of meat. Cancer placements are they're very talkative, and I don't feel like people mention this a lot, but they constantly have a lot of information on random things that they're willing to share happily, and they always have some really interesting story to share or tell about their life. They lead very fascinating lives, and they constantly just, I don't know, they can make you smile without even trying to, and it's a really adorable trait because they don't even realize like how adorable they are, and they're really nurturing, and they know like how to remedy anything that you're going through in the moment. Say you have a wound, or say you're going through like a house like fixing problem, or your car broke down. They literally have a resolution for everything. I feel like this is why they get that mother trope or that nurturing trope, and it's possibly because they are constantly like have so many tricks up their sleeves and so many solutions to everything. And I don't think that they're whiny. I think that they just care too much, and I feel like everyone constantly telling them that they're like the crybaby or that they are too emotional. I don't really feel like that's true. I feel like Cancer people often mimic the vibe around or surrounding them. So if they are exhibiting a specific emotion, maybe heightened from the vibe that you're giving them. So if they're being overly emotional around you, 9 times out of 10 you're probably being emotional too, and they're just magnifying that to a greater degree. And then Cancer is not the crybaby. They are not the crybaby. If anything, they can be stronger than most of the zodiac. They're just constantly forced to have to face all emotion all the time. On a wider scale, Cancer is ruled by the moon, and the moon is constantly needing to feel the full spectrum of emotion and nurture everyone else. So let's stop that. And people who hypnotize others because they're so just peaceful and mellow, and I want to say melancholy, but I just feel like there's such a calming vibe about Pisces. They really will lure you to your death. Like they will hypnotize you. I feel like underneath like the peaceful cheerfulness, there's a lot of there's like a darker representation of Pisces that I feel to be true, in the sense that they carry a lot of very magnified critical analysis on the world around them, but I feel that's hidden behind this like happier or optimistic trope, and it isn't necessarily always pretty when you get too close to a Pisces. Like their constant need to escape what is happening around them can lead to like a very dark tunnel. I feel like it could almost be like falling down the rabbit hole and not knowing how to get back up again. Pisces is kind of like really sweet on the surface, but really evil underneath. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. Pisces are very passive. Like, I think a lot of people feel like they can kind of take Pisces for granted or step on them, and I feel like the minute Pisces feels like they're being taken advantage of because they're extremely intelligent signs, I think they are more clairvoyant. Well, obviously they're the most psychic and clairvoyant sign, so they can predict things before they even happen. They can read people better than that person could read themselves. And I know that when people underestimate Pisces, they will bite back, and they will definitely show whoever underestimated them that they are not to be messed with. Watch a show directed by them. I just feel like their ability to think of different concepts outside of the ones that have already been written and built in this world is really cool, because they're constantly showing us that there's always something to create, and it's such a reassuring thing. Also, they're extremely accepting. Like, you can tell them that you started a new vegan diet, or that you've decided to pick up a new hobby or a new skill, and they'll just completely give you genuine and honest support and feedback. And I feel like that's so cool, because a lot of people are more likely to offer you like a negative criticism or something to caution you with, and Pisces is more of just jump now, think later, and that's so refreshing to be around. Pisces is very creative, I will say. Next to Gemini, I feel like Pisces is someone that I would want to read a book written by. Or then also Pisces is not this little naive, dreamy, mystical mermaid or fish. Like, they can be deadly too, so stop underestimating them before they murder you. And then we have Scorpio. They don't like to be seen as one-sided. They like to be seen as multi-layered. They like to constantly surprise people, or constantly have a wide spectrum of interests and personality traits up their sleeve. They're very vocal, but they're actually like puppy dogs underneath that, and they try to hide this under like a very like tough, loud bark, but underneath that I feel they just are really sensitive creatures. Scorpio is a little scorpion that will sting anyone that gets too close to them, because they don't like when people get too close to them. And if they don't sting you, they'll stalk you. Scorpios constantly need a Carfax. They need like a consensus of statistics and things to constantly validate what they're feeling or thinking. They never trust something the first time that it's being said to them, and that's a good thing, because like they constantly are protecting themselves, but it's also annoying if you're just trying to talk to them in general. They are really great conversationalists, and I feel like can constantly carry on even the most boring conversation if they need to. And they also have a way of just genuinely making sure you feel like you are cared for. Can be extremely nurturing if they want to be, but they never really want to be. I think also another thing is they don't necessarily like getting too much attention, because they just don't feel like it's necessary. They don't need to be the big focus or the big conversation. They don't like to be fussed over grand displays of emotion can make them uncomfortable because they just feel like it's not always genuine and they just don't want to waste anyone's time or waste their own time. Stereotypes that I feel like should be canceled for them. In 2018, Scorpio isn't scary. They just are very reserved and selective with who they decide to be or show their vulnerable side to. But once that is revealed, they are the most lovable and soft person in the world. They just are very skeptical of who they show that to.